Okay, so in the last video we learned how to create the blog posts from the admin, but now we're going to actually be able to create them from the website itself, from the blogging platform. But before we dive into that, I just want to let you know that I have recently launched a full Django course that teaches you everything to go from zero to mastery. If you want to check it out, the link is in the description. Anyways, the first thing we're going to do is create a URL for creating the blog post. So we'll come into our blog app into urls.py and go ahead and add another path. So it'll be path create, the ending slash. The view that we want to call, now we don't have this made yet, but we'll make this called post_create, and then the name post-create, like so. And we can go ahead and also import post create. Now let's go ahead and make this post create view. So we can head over to views.py. And at the bottom here, we can create a function, def post_create, takes in the request. And now we want to handle this two separate ways. So one thing that's going to happen is the user is going to just see the empty form. But after they fill it out and submit it, we have to handle that form with the values as well. And so this is if it's a post method, this means that there is form data. Then we have to handle it. Also, if it's a get method, so form is kind of blank. So we can pull this out of the request. So we could say if request.method equals post, then we can do something. For now we'll pass. And if the request is a get method, but we'll just say else, then we'll handle that. And either way, what we will do is return some template. So we'll return render, pass in the request. We'll call this create.html. And then for now, we can just pass in an empty dictionary. We're going to come back to this though, because we're going to have to get the form set up and also pass it in the context so that we can display it on the HTML page. But we'll come back to this shortly. The next thing we're going to do is just get the HTML page set up. So under templates, we can create a new file and call it create.html. Now I'm just going to paste this markup here, but you can see that it's just an HTML doc with head tag, and then in the body it just says create blog post. Nothing too fancy going on yet. And if you want to, you can go ahead and make sure that this is all running smoothly. So you can open up the terminal, make sure your virtual environment's activated, and type python manage.py run server. And it looks like we get this error. So let's take a look. Post create. Looks like we didn't save this page. So go ahead and make sure you save the file. It'll automatically reload. And perfect, it looks like it's working. So now let's check out that route. If you pull up your browser and go to create, it has create blog post. Nice. So that's all we have for now. But let's get it set up so that there's actually a form rendered and we can actually create a post. We can go back into the code, close the terminal, and we're going to want to use Django Forms. So within this blog app here, create a new file called forms.py. And we're going to use Django Forms. So they make it very easy to just create forms based on models. So from Django import forms, if I can get this right. Then from .models import post. And all we're going to have to do here is define a class. So class post form which inherits from forms.modelForm. And then we specify some meta properties, so class meta. And then we just have to specify the model. So this is going to be post. And then the fields that we want to display in the form. And we're just going to want to show the title and the content. So we can go ahead and save that. Now let's actually use this form in our view and send it over to the HTML page. So if we go back to our views.py, we go ahead and import it. So from .forms import post form. Then we could say if it's a post request, then form equals post form with the info from request.post. So that'll be the form info. If form.is_valid, so this does some checks to make sure that the values are all valid. If that checks out, then we can go ahead and save that info and kind of create this post in the database. So post equals form.save, commit equals false, because we have to set the user, the author, on the post to the currently logged in user, right? It's not a field that we have in the form because we don't want somebody to select that. We just want whoever's logged in to be the author. So post.author equals request.user, and then we can save that post. Now where does the user want to go after the form has been saved? We don't want to just render this form again. That would be kind of a weird user experience. So what we want to do is redirect them to the page with all the posts. So we can actually return a redirect and just send them home. Now we don't have redirect, so we have to import that. So from Django shortcuts, we can import redirect. And the other thing we just mentioned was that we have to set the author to this request.user. So what happens if somebody isn't logged in? We're not going to have a user. There's not going to be an author. We're going to get an error. So we also need to make sure that the only people that can access this post create are authenticated, logged in. So we can do that with a decorator from Django. So from django.contrib.auth.decorators, we can import login required. So this basically requires that a user is logged in. So we can use this decorator above this view like so. So now they have to be logged in, and if they are logged in and it's a post request, that means the form has been submitted. Then we will create the post and redirect them home. Otherwise, if the form hasn't been submitted and it's a GET request, then we want to give them the blank form. So form equals post form like so. And we're still rendering this create.html, but we can this time pass in the form in the context so we can actually display it. And the interesting thing here is also that here we get an instance of the post form with the data, but if form.isValid returns false, then it will still return this render statement down here, this render function, but we'll just get the form with any errors or any reason why it wasn't valid. It'll still work. So it's a pretty cool way that it handles that. But now let's go back into our templates, create.html. We can change this to be an h1 tag, so just it's a little bit more of a header. And now we can render out this form. So we can say form method equals post, enc type equals multi-part form data. We can close this form. And then we have to render out a CSRF token, like so, which is a random token that Django will generate for us for security reasons. So we'll render that out, and then we can include the form itself. So we'll say form.asp, so it renders as paragraph tags, a little bit better spacing. And then we want a button. So we'll have button with type equals submit, so that it'll actually submit the form, and we can just say create post, like so. Okay, and then it'll do some auto formatting depending on what extensions you have. But if now we check and see if the server's running, so server's still running on my end. If we go back to the browser and reload the page, now we get this login required, so it prompts us to log in. So I can say I can log in like so, and now I can create a blog post. So I can add my title and add my content. So I could say this is a blog post. This was made from the web app. Create post. Boom. And look at, here it is. This is a blog post, and it knows that I logged in as DJVAC, so that's who the author is. And sweet. So now test user could log in, create a post, and it would show up. Awesome. Well, things are starting to come together. We almost are at the end of this project. So if you like this video and are enjoying the series, I appreciate a thumbs up and a subscription. It really means a lot to me, and it helps motivate me to make the next video. In the next videos, we're going to be adding navigation so that we can get around this a little bit easier. And then we'll also style everything with crispy forms so that it looks nice and tidy. So I will see you in the next video.